Madam Clerk, if you'd call roll, please.
Garner,
Here.
Miller,
Here.
Dapper,
Here.
Turner,
Here.
Kehoe, Morgan, Kirkman,
Here.
Selman, here, Von Acker.
Here. Thank you. Rodney, do we have a report on council actions and communications? You've got a presentation for us. Would you like to say something really quickly? Jeez. Are you sure? Okay.
Chair and Commissioners, Rodney Ashby, for the record. We only have two applications that went before City Council on this last City Council meeting. The first one was annexation of zoning for Valente subdivision. This was 63 single-family detached residential lots and the attached lots, 4 commercial lots. This one is located off Usick Road. The recommendation from planning and zoning was approval. City council denied this application, saying it was too dense, it was not compatible with the area, it was impact on traffic and infrastructure, and there were concerns about the proposed access to the property. The second one was a vacation of existing utility easement. This is standard for this on before you, that was at Florida Avenue.
Great.
Do I need to go through that again?
I think we're okay.
Okay.
For the report. Are you going to give the density report now, or?
I am. I'm sorry. We're missing our dongle for the clicker, so let me go grab my computer.
Okay.
Whoa. Can you switch over the screens? Should be showing. I don't know. Thank you. Usually we've got this under control. Sorry about that. Okay, so this is your standard density report in preliminary plat. Sorry, let me grab normally I have this all right in front of me over there, so let me grab my other notes for this one.
This nice weather does weird things to people.
All right, I think I'm ready. All right, so here's the preliminary plats. Again, these are out several years. They're just preliminary. Then normally you'd have a final plat follow these within the next 3 to 7 years, potentially, or 3 to 5, somewhere in there. So a little closer view of the northern section of our city in the preliminary plats. And the southern section, again, you're seeing that trend that these are all over town. It used to be in specific areas to the north and the southwest, but we're seeing them all over now. So the number of units that were approved, this is going to take a little bit of explaining. These are actually not just approved, but you can see in the status column here whether they were approved or they're in review. And in this case, they were built for Autumn Leaf. So the last one here is an MPC. That means a master planned community. So those are ones that are over 40 acres. They're approving a whole concept. And in this case, they proposed a total of 650 units, though that's not necessarily going to be built. Like a preliminary plat hasn't been submitted for all of those. So that could take significant number of years. So this is unique. This is the first time we've seen an application for a master plan community. And again, so we didn't know exactly how to show those except for just one new line item. But you can see 779 single-family units and 228 multifamily units have been applied for or approved in the last 12 months. This is actually slightly more units approved by this time last year, but significantly less than in 2022. In 2023, there were 384 multifamily units and 620 single-family residential units approved by this time last year within the last 12 months, previous 12 months. So again, about the same, just a little bit more than the previous year, but in 2022, it was a significant drop from those. Final plats, again, you can see these are kind of all over the place, all over the community. Here's the northern section. These are, again, approved and then start construction within a year or so, a year to 3 years, depending on how many extensions they request. And there's the next one, or the southern section of our community. And these are the list of projects that were approved through a final plat or are in review. The last 3 there are in review still. So a total up to this point would be 449 single family. And we approved significantly less final plat residential units this year than in the previous year. This time last year, there were 88 multifamily units and 1,114 single family units had been approved through the final plats in the previous 12 months. And then even those were significantly less than those approved in 2022. So we're seeing a trend of going down in the number of units that have been approved. And then here's the short plats. Again, these are final and preliminary plats all combined into one. And we had 2 projects. A little closer view of those. And a total of 8 multifamily units and 4 single-family units. And in 2023, Q1, we had approved 66 multifamily units and 8 single-family units through the short plat process in the previous 12 months. And that's all, unless you have questions for me.
Questions for Rodney?
Real quick, and I'm not sure if you know this answer off the top of your head. That's all right. It's given these last couple of decades, the growth in Nampa, what we've just seen you present, what percentage of Nampa is not within the city? I guess within the area of impact, really. Do you know what the percentage of Nampa is not built out yet or ready to be built?
I don't. We looked at that in our annual report. We tried to come up with those numbers. You're asking what percentage of acreage is not built out
but is approved for development.
No, not even necessarily. I guess I'm just looking for the percentage of how much room do we have to grow?
Yeah, good question. In our annual report, we tried to address that a little bit, but we don't have a good number. We're trying to come up with that for this next annual report. Because what we're trying to say is, in our impact area, which is the area we have anticipated we're going to grow into, and generally that's like a 20-year time frame or so, the state legislature put some new changes to that language, and they want us to look at utilities and how quickly we can get utilities to that within the next 5 years. So it is changing that definition of an impact area, and what it's intended to do has changed a little bit. But we still have an impact area that's been approved, and we're looking at that this next the end of this year. We should have some numbers to give you for how much area is available for development,
It'd be
essentially.
interesting to know.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Any other questions? All right, thank you very much.
Yep.
Moving on to the consent agenda, I'd entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda unless there's any discussion.
Mr. Chair, I make a motion that we approve the consent agenda.
We have a motion by Gardner, second by Kehoe to adopt the consent agenda. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? All right, the motion carries. Consent agenda is adopted. We'll go ahead and start the public hearing portion of the meeting this evening. I see a lot of you in the audience. We did have a potential issue with the first item on the agenda. So do we have an applicant here for the first item? Okay, great, you made it. Awesome. So I'm just going to go through some ground rules on the process here. I see a lot of familiar faces, but if this is your first time, we're going to have the applicant come up. He or she will have 7 minutes to give their presentation on their project. Then we will hear from staff. We'll get the staff report that we've all had time to review in our packet. We got it last week with all the information about the project. And then after the staff report has been presented, we'll move on to public testimony. If you haven't already signed up in the back, I saw a line when I came in, and most of you should be signed up. But if you are signed up to speak, if you'd come up to the microphone, please. You have 3 minutes. Please state your name and address for the record, and tell us what's on your mind in 3 minutes. And I understand that there's a association here this evening that is going to kind of tell a story with 3-minute intervals. So if I'm wrong, I guess we'll see how that goes. But there are a lot of you here. If you all have an opportunity to speak after we go through the sign-up sheet, if there's anybody else that wants to speak, I'll call for those at the end before we close the public hearing, or before we bring the applicant back up to provide his rebuttal or her rebuttal. And then we'll close the public hearing, deliberate amongst ourselves, ask questions, and render a decision. So with that, we'll go ahead and start with item number 1. It is, now I lost my page. It's an annexation and zoning, I know that. To RP zoning district and potential development agreement for 9.51 acres for a future single-family residential subdivision, Wood Poppy at Northside, 0 Northside Boulevard for Katie Miller, Bailey Engineering, representing Trilogy Development for original concept of 9 single-family detached dwelling units, 20 single-family attached dwelling units in 5 buildings, 4-unit townhouses, 8 single-family attached dwelling units in 4 buildings, duplex units, and 11 common lots totaling 37 units on 9.51 acres. Hello, please state your name and address for the record, and you've got 7 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Commissioners, my name is David Bailey with Bailey Engineering. My office address is 1119 East State Street in Eagle, representing Trilogy Development for the Wood Poppy subdivision, or Wood Poppy annexation and zone request. So we are presenting tonight a request for annexation and zone of the property. It's currently in the comp plan designation as mixed-use residential, and we are proposing an RP zone, which is consistent with the density allowed there. We are also presenting tonight a concept plan for a preliminary plat, but that's not before you or the council at this time, except for say we have a plan that would be consistent with the RP zoning that we would we're requesting on the project. So the project's on the north side of Usick Road, northeast and east side of Northside Boulevard. To the west of this project, or let's start with to the east of this project, is the Heartland subdivision up there, which the completed project, there'll be about three units per acre in the Heartland subdivision, and that's been going on for some time, and they're getting near the completion of development of that subdivision. Directly to the west of us is the Magnolia subdivision, which was approved, and phase 1 is under construction, and that's a little over 4 units to the acre and includes fourplex units that will be built at the southwest corner of Northside and Ustick there. To the northwest a little bit is the Kinghorn subdivision, which is an RS6 subdivision that was completed in this area, and that's I think it's a little over 3 units to the acre, 3.2, guessing on that. And to the southeast is the previously proposed Valente subdivision, and the annexation zone request was denied by the city council last week for the Valente project to the southeast. To the southwest, there's an older county subdivision with some 1-acre lots, and then the corner there doesn't have any construction on it. It was reserved in the original platting of that for some reason, probably due to access through there. So there are about 1-acre lots, I believe, in that subdivision, still in the county. So the future land use map designates this, as I said, as residential mixed use, which it is to the west and to the south here, and also to the east of this. To the southwest of this is a little more of the mixed residential mixed use, and then it's industrial. And for perspective on the future land use map, once we get into that industrial, that's industrial all the way out to the Nampa city limits to the west, out to Caldwell. And the actual the Nampa city limits will end, or the comp plan area will end to the northwest. It's at the north boundary of the Kinghorn subdivision. So this is the end of the zoning that's going to happen in this area for any residential uses. There is significant development that is going on to the northeast. From this, and as you've seen there that Rodney had up there of the subdivisions that have been approved, the variety of density, the latest one being the Haltom Heritage subdivision, which is out there. I'll share some more numbers when I get a chance later on how that development's going in the northeast specifically. So this project and the Valente subdivision project were brought before the P&Z and the City Council in 2021, so over 3 years ago, or about 3 years ago. They were brought before them. At that time, this was zoned, the comp plan for this was medium density residential in this area. Since then, last year, you passed a comprehensive plan that has changed this to the mixed use, residential mixed use. And so this is why we're back after the annexation, after the previous denial on this, is there were some issues with both of these projects at the time. One was a concern of density, and the residential mixed use had a density, the medium density had a range of 3 to 8 units per acre, and the mixed use residential mixed use has a density of 2.5 to 8 units per acre. The proposal that we have before you tonight is at 3.89 units per acre. It's not before you again. That's our concept on the preliminary plat. So other reasons the project were denied, there was a question about the nearness of services to this, about the future improvements on Ustick Road, density, as I've mentioned on this, and on this particular project, about the transition to the Heartland subdivision to the east, so the size of the lots there. The proposal we are bringing back has a variety of house types, but we have matched lots and lot sizes with RS7 size lots along that eastern boundary of this. At the southern portion there, as you can see, it's very hard to get to. On the southern portion of this, we don't have any access except for the main access at the north end. We'll provide an emergency access as well to the property. And so we are proposing some duplexes on that corner down there. And then we will propose some townhouses that are in the middle adjacent to north side. Make sure I don't run out of time here. So we
Yeah.
are requesting an RP zone on this.
I've got like a minute and a half left, so.
All right, thank you.
Yep. Is there a timer in front of you?
Yeah, I see it. I see
Okay,
it right
good.
here.
All right.
Yep. I'm just
Thanks.
trying to keep my eye on it. I blew it at the city council meeting last week, so pay attention. So why annex the project? One is that the roundabout that's supposed to go in this intersection, the improvements to Ustick Road are in the planning stage. We talked to the Nampa Highway District. It's a joint project between the city and them. This will actually provide all of the right-of-way for that on the northeast corner to accommodate that, and it'll be donated to the city in advance with the annexation of the zoning. That's a requirement that we do that. It's also just time. We do have services less than 2 miles from here to the west. The whole Costco complex is just 2 miles from here. And to the east, we got the Jacksons going in on Ustick Road. We think we have the services here. I think there's a commercial component proposed in the Haltom Heritage as well on that end. Traffic, we had done a previous traffic study. We'll do one again, update to that with the, let's see.
Time.
I went through the concept,
Time now?
and I am done with time.
Yep.
And I'd be glad to stand for any questions you might have at this point.
Anybody have any questions? Not right now. Okay,
All right.
thank you.
Thank you.
We'll hear from staff and see you again soon.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Chairman and Commissioners. The action requested from you this evening is a recommendation of approval to City Council for the annexation and zoning to RP for potential future subdivision located at the northeast corner of Ustick and north side. This will require a development agreement to accompany the annexation. So he kind of went over the surrounding uses. To the north and the east, is RS7. To the west is RD, and to the south is still Canyon County because of the denial that happened earlier last week. So city and sewer, water, and irrigation services are adequate to serve this property currently. The project will be required to construct those utilities to and through the property at the time of development. As far as traffic is concerned, again, upon approval of the annexation request, the city will gain the amount of right-of-way needed to construct the proposed roundabout on the northeast corner. There's various traffic improvements that are identified in our capital improvement plan. North Side and Cherry to be completed in 24-25. Ustick and North Side to construct the roundabout in 25-26. Ustick and Franklin to construct a roundabout 26-27. North Side and Karcher to construct a roundabout 26-27. North Side Boulevard, Karcher to Cherry to widen 4 to 5 lanes in 26 and 27. Cherry to Ustick to widen to 5 lanes in 28 to 2030. And Ustick Road from Midland to Franklin to widen to 5 lanes from 2030 to 2036. Those have not been identified for design or improvements quite yet. As far as access is concerned, the project is located on Northside Boulevard and Ustick Road. They will be required to dedicate a certain portion of the frontage to be able to create a what's called a U-turn pocket, and the additional right-of-way, of course, for the roundabout. City has adopted a corridor study for Ustick Road, which is what we were waiting for previously when this got denied the first time. The frontage road improvements will be required with a 10-foot side path along North Side and Ustick Roads. Allowances should be made for the adjacent property addressed at 18052 Northside Boulevard to be able to take access off of the internal public roads of the development. This can come in the form of an access easement or public right-of-way, either one. And then because of the bicycle and pedestrian master plan, there is a 10-foot pathway required along the Purdom Gulch drain. And they will need to work with Pioneer Irrigation on that. We did receive public input from a Lois Hartley, who was the previous owner of the property. She says she had a sales agreement that outlines that no development shall occur while she still lives there. We talked to the developer about this, and they are aware of that document, but at this time, again, they are only requesting annexation. They are not ready to start building. We got comments from the building department. Code compliance is just requesting that the weeds be destroyed. Police department has indicated a need with this project if it gets built, with a commitment to fund 0.15 officers and 0.05 additional support staff. And the fire department has indicated that this is located 2.7 miles from fire station number 3 with approximate response time of 6 minutes. Ultimate build-out will provide the fire district with $1,567 in impact fees collected on each home at the issuance of the building permit. The Idaho Transportation Department has indicated that they would like to re-examine the traffic impact study once it is determined how many units there will ultimately be with the preliminary plat. And the engineering department just has their standard comments about construction, access, drainage, irrigation, and so on. So the comprehensive plan defines compatibility in residential areas and also defines residential mixed-use principles and housing goals and strategies, including the location of higher density development near to job centers and major transportation corridors. This area, as it develops into industrial uses, will become a job center. The proposed RP zoning is a permitted zone under the Comprehensive Plan Future Land Use Map designation of residential mixed use because it allows a mix of uses without needing to have separate zones for each developed area, and it addresses the housing goals outlined in the comprehensive plan. The request is not currently asking for platting, only for annexation to dedicate the right-of-way. Residential mixed-use areas must be planned to provide a suitable residential environment with private, semi-private, and public spaces located throughout the developments. Qualified open space with park-like elements should be required in all residential developments. Housing types could be single-family detached, townhouses, duplexes, single-family live-work units, residential with retail and commercial, and residential and commercial buildings with studio lofts. So engineering did have some comments about the drainage and the irrigation to the project. There will be some needed design for those items. When you are considering annexation, there are 3 criteria that you need to take into consideration. 1 is that the property owner has consented to this application. 2, the property is contiguous to the city limits on the east side. And 3, the area can be reasonably assumed to be available for orderly development because the uses in the area are appropriate, the right-of-way is going to be dedicated to the city, and the frontage improvements will be placed in at the time of build-out. Excuse me. As far as zoning is concerned, there are also 3 criteria for that. The proposed annexation and zoning map amendment does provide a compatible set of zoning. It's compatible with the future land use map. Sorry, lost my place. The proposed annexation and zoning map amendment provides for uses that are compatible with the surrounding uses in the area. And the proposed annexation and zoning is in the interest of the public and reasonably necessary because it will bring city sewer to this area. It will make use of existing utilities in the area and provide for a development that will be required to dedicate the right-of-way. It will install curb, gutter, landscaping, side paths, and create space for commercial services that will be of benefit to the community. These are the recommended conditions of approval, and these are your potential motions. I will stand for any questions.
Any questions for Christy?
Yeah, Mr. Chair, I have, basically it's a general question, but in the comprehensive plan, the objective for innovative housing, we see that a lot because it's in the in the plan. What does that mean, innovative housing? Because it seems like when this comes up, we typically see the same non-innovative housing stuff coming up all the time.
Well, so Commissioner Kirkman, what that means is it provides anywhere from single-family homes to attached units to multifamily. And when you put all of those things together, you're providing an opportunity, one, to either age in place, if you'd like to stay in your community, or two, if you don't necessarily want to have a yard to take care of, but you still want to stay in that community, you can live in an attached unit where you don't have maintenance that's required for a larger lot and a larger home. It doesn't change the value of anything.
Sure.
Those attached units tend to be still valued the same as a single-family home on a lot. It just gives everybody a different opportunity to live in the community that they want to live in, while maybe not having the same maintenance requirement.
Yeah, and I guess when I hear the word innovative, I'm thinking of like new and improved, like with underground garages or I don't know, that kind of thinking. So it's more compatible housing than, okay, I was just wondering, because it comes up quite a bit and I always have that question, so I thought I'd ask.
Yep.
A little of something for everybody.
Variety.
Any other questions? All right. We'll go ahead and move to the public testimony portion of the hearing. Madam Clerk, do we have the sign-up sheet?
We have a total of 25 speakers.
Okay.
The first speaker is Tracy Cassetta. Next on board is Barbara Jarabak, thank you. And after that is Andrew Jarabak.
Okay, so if you heard your name coming up,
Her timing is impeccable.
wow, impressive.
Just walked in.
So go ahead and state your name and address for the record, and you have
Tracy
three
Cassetta.
minutes to tell us what's on your mind. And
My name is
Ask any
Tracy
questions.
Cassetta, and I live at 18201 North Orchid Way. And my issue is I live on the corner adjacent to where they want to put the proposed entrance to this subdivision or apartment or whatever it is, but I'm just against all of it.
okay, is that it?
Yeah.
Right.
I just don't think it's not good for our neighborhood. It's not fair to us, for the neighborhood, the community. That's a very busy street as it is. This little Violet is very busy. So if it's still goes through with the plan, it would be nice if there's a wall and they don't put an entrance off Violet, and it can be off North Side or Ustick. That would be ideal.
Okay, so this is just the hearing for the annexation and the zoning to get it
Okay.
annexed and zoned into the city.
Okay.
We're not talking about the plat or
Anything?
how the design
Okay.
is laid,
More,
but there,
she gave you more than what.
yeah. I was
Okay.
just
Well, that's my issue.
just making you aware.
Okay.
We have a.
Sorry, I just
That's
thought-
okay, that's all right. We have a concept plan that's been provided to us. And if you have any specific questions about that's fine, or the annexation and zoning. But just so you're aware and everybody else, I mean, we're not signing up for a specific layout of the land
Okay.
right now.
Okay.
Other than just annexing zoning into the city, and we'll have a development agreement for whatever gets decided on this parcel as well.
Okay.
So,
Yeah,
we
it
hear
just
you're in
seems like
opposition.
a small area for
Yep.
what's proposed.
Okay, great,
Okay.
thank you.
Thank you. Oops, that's yours.
Next up.
Hi.
Hello.
Barbara Jarabak. I'm at 18438 North Geranium Way in the Heartland community. I didn't really have anything to add other than we are not in favor of this. We just moved in, and just to hear about all the things that are going on and such, that we don't think it would be helpful for our community in Heartland, but understand that this is still under review. So Thank you.
Thank you.
Andrew Jarabak, the other half, 18438 North Geranium in Nampa. My question is to the designer, how much parking are you putting in there? Because right now, we're getting people parking cars on the street and so forth. Sorry about that.
That's okay, just address us, we'll make sure and take notes and he'll answer. Yeah, no
my
problem.
concern is each one of these units going to have parking for like 2 cars, or is it going to be street parking, whatever like that? And also, coming off of North Sides onto the street there, since we all pay homeowners association dues basically for maintenance on the roads and stuff, is this neighborhood going to be able to kick in for wear and tear on the road as access to the neighborhood?
Okay.
Just general questions on it to see. Thank you, gentlemen.
Yep, thank you.
Ladies too.
Next is Ellie Lyons. After her on deck is Tom Lyons and David Saunders.
I don't need to say anything. I'm just against it.
Okay, thank you. Great.
Hi, my name's Dave Saunders. I live at 8891 East Sago Lily. I understand this plat map. I understand we can't really hit on what's going on with what they're wanting to build. It seems pretty vague for the annexation. I'm not with this. This directly impacts my home from what we're going to be looking at. And I agree with a lot of my neighbors when it comes to the traffic that we're having. I understand that there's roundabouts. I drive truck. I deal with these all the time. They're not the best thing, but they're not the worst thing. But I definitely do not want this. Thank you.
Yep.
Next is Richard Froelich. On deck after is Jill.
I'll just, exactly what David said, I'm good with that, so I'll speak.
Okay, next is Jolene Walker. And then after that is Curtis Walker.
You should have Prices Right music or something.
Yeah.
I thought you had to sign in. Jolyn Walker, 18167 North Phlox Way. I have actually been a property manager myself. This feels like a very dense property that is being proposed. And so I'm concerned about my property values, like everybody else that's in the room. If you lived in our neighborhood, would you want this in your backyard? Looking at the roads and everything, that looks, yeah, I just would prefer not. This particular choice is what my vote is. So just understand that, you know, I usually am all for growth and everything, but I think that this is something that if you were planning on having this in your backyard, would you want this? Thanks.
Thank you.
Peace in the family tonight.
Yep.
Next is Charmaine Ronis. After that is Kim Nevins. And on deck after that is Kylie Broker.
But I didn't sign up to speak, but I'm totally against it. It's way too dense.
Would you like to speak?
The dairy, that's it.
Okay.
Hello. Kim Nivens, 18089 North Phlox Way, Nampa, Idaho. Myself and a couple others will be speaking on behalf of Heartland residents that got together just to kind of throw back our concerns. So first off, we wanted to thank you for your time tonight and hearing community members voice their concerns over the annexation and the potential development of the property. It's our goal as community members and neighbors to keep the small town feel and slow-paced living a priority within our community while understanding that growth is inevitable. While we understand that growth will happen and that growth is good for the economy in the state of Idaho, we'd like to share our thoughts on how this rapid growth can and will be damaging to the residents. Again, it's understood that growth will happen, but the manner in which it happens will determine the success. A big concern with continuing to annex large lots that will be developed in the future is, of course, our schools. Children are the future and deserve to be set up for success so they have the education to be productive to our society. Within the direct area of the subject property in question for annexation, the 4 schools that the children would attend are East Canyon, Desert Springs, Sage Valley, and Ridgeview. To my understanding, all of these schools are considered fringe rural schools. Fringe rural schools are typically smaller settings, give personalized attention, safer environments, and give a sense of community due to the smaller in nature school. In addition, these rural schools typically receive less funding per student than those of urban schools. With the increased population growth in that area that's currently happening, these schools will need to accommodate as an urban school would. I'm sure you can see where we're going with this. New homes mean more kids in the schools in the area. Over time, this makes sense, yes, but what is currently happening is the homes and the attendees are happening before the schools can adapt to these changes. Waiting until the change needs to happen, rather than being proactive about it, hurts the education of the children during the process. Overcrowding the schools takes away from the children, affecting the undivided attention that they should be getting from their teachers, and in addition, will limit the resources available to them. That concludes my part.
Thank you.
Huh?
Yes. Kylie Broker, 18132 North Phlox Way. So our concern is not just about one chunk of property. This needs to be looked at as one piece of a larger picture. In the direct area of the property in question that is proposed to have 37 dwelling units on it, we need to consider the other developments in the area as well. There's the Magnolia subdivision that's just starting to develop, Kinghorn subdivision, Heartland still in development, Sweetwater Glen in development, and then the land that was recently annexed south of Ustick and east of Northside that's planned to have 190 lots and some light commercial as well. Between these 6 subdivisions to the direct corners of Northside and Ustick, that is over 1,050 lots. If we look at a bigger sample spanning from Cherry to Linden going north and south, and Franklin and Santa Ana going east and west, this number grows exponentially. Within this area, notably, we have East Ridgeview Estates, Cherry Grove, Adams Ridge, and Arbor, totaling over 1,552 additional lots. Combined with the above referenced lots at the corner of Northside and Ustick, this is an additional 2,602 lots. This estimate of lots doesn't include the other areas of land currently for sale that will likely be bought to be developed. There are 13 acres at Ustick and Franklin still for sale where the Jacksons is going, a 32-acre parcel on Cherry for sale, and another 76 acres on Cherry for sale, just to name a few. On average, 36% of homes in Idaho have a child in the home. If we assume only one child, although this number is probably higher, that means that of the 2,602 lots already in motion, that attendees at the schools could potentially increase by 936 students. It is recognized that some of these children may be moving within the same school, but more than likely another child will move into the departing home, making this 936 a true and accurate estimate of an increase. High-density living also means more vehicles in neighborhoods, and unfortunately, with the increased cost of homes and multi-generational living, this also means that more cars are parked on neighborhood streets. For the subject property in particular, this is concerning as it is believed that overflow parking from the potential 37 lots will flow into the Heartland neighborhood. In addition, sharing an entrance with yet another development will make the exit and entry into the neighborhood more cumbersome than it already is. During school hours, especially drop-off and pickup, it can take a significant amount of time to get out of the neighborhood as is, and these subdivisions are not even completed. Aside from convenience, there's concern of emergency vehicles getting in and out in cases of emergency, and it was recently noted at a city council meeting that the fire department response time is currently 6 minutes. How will an additional over 2,600 lots affect this, given more traffic? Thank you.
Next is Sarah Palmer. On deck is Tara Smith, and after that is Angie Hasler.
Hello, my name is Sarah Palmer. My address is 8821 East Hyacinth Street in the Heartland subdivision. So we are concerned with infrastructure, should be addressed prior to the influx in traffic. As we understand, there have been plans for a roundabout at Northside and Ustick. Apparently, this was talked about prior to the Heartland subdivision. Going in now, we have Heartland, Sweetwater Glen, Sloan and Place, the different subdivisions she was talking about, still no roundabout. Before any further annexations or developments occur, we need to address the traffic situation and accommodate the current traffic needs in the area. The roundabout will alleviate pressure at the intersection, however, the increase in traffic flow will still be there. Not to mention, traffic will still be slowed while residents will be turning into subdivisions. According to our online research, lower density residential housing areas have violent crime rates lower, or level that are between 50 to 75% below overall average, whereas medium to high density housing areas are associated with violent crime levels that are 40 to 65% above average. Nampa is known to actually be one of the safest cities in Idaho currently, which is probably what is attracting many developers to the area for a quick sell. But we need to consider the residents and maintain a sense of security in the area. We would like to end by reiterating again that we understand the growth and that it will happen and is a part of the evolving state, but we want to stress that there is also a technique in how this should happen. Holding off on annexation will allow more time for current adaptation to take place, adjust, and plan for the future developments. The process in which this takes place can be looked at as a bit backwards right now. Changes should happen proactively, not reactively. It is our duty as citizens to be vocal and to stand up for ourselves and the future of our children and our community and everything that we are looking at. We truly hope that our voices have been heard and are considered tonight, and we hope that you understand the voice of reason and the vote against annexation. Thank you.
Thank you.
So I'm Tara Smith, and basically just in agreement with the three ladies that just spoke and the rest of our community.
Thank you.
Angie Hassler on North Orchid. I concur with what has been presented so far. I oppose.
Thank you.
Next on deck is Roger Hassler. After that is Nick Roser and Danson Ulverson.
My name is Roger Hassler, 18249 North Orchid Way. For much of what has already been said, I am opposed to this program, but I would like to emphasize that there should be no construction approved in this area until, one, the Ustick North Side roundabout is built and completed. Number two, North Side, before any further construction, needs to be expanded from Ustick to Violet to include turn lanes and sidewalks. And number three, the entrance into this project from Violet should be opposed because it will create a major traffic problem and serious problem with the Violet, Orchid Way, and Sago Lily intersection. The traffic there would be dangerous. Thank you.
Thank you.
Nick Roser, 18143 North Foxway. I'm opposed to the building behind my house because I'm worried about property values. I agree with all my neighbors, especially Roger, the man that was just up here. He walks about 15 miles a day, and he walks along the side of the road. And with more traffic coming in, I do worry about him with being struck. I've stopped before. I was like, "You okay, man?" But the growth, I don't see the small Nampa being able to handle the large growth coming in, and I know it's inevitable, but if we can slow it down, then here we are. So, thank you.
Thank you.
Dason Alverson, 8833 Hyacinth Street in the Heartland community. My name is Dason Alverson, realtor of 15 years and was born in Boise. I am now a resident of the Heartland community, and I also represent Sunrise Homes, who is still selling homes in the community of Heartland. I'd like to start by thanking the council members and Corey Barton for not building two-story units directly behind some of our most valued homes in Heartland. I understand this was the initial plan. I appreciate that you changed that. Fortunately, this new plan is using one of our entrances off of Violet. There's already been a lot of complaints regarding people using it, even though they don't live in the community. Adding more cars will make the already chaotic intersection even worse. Once Wood Poppy and Heartland are finished, potential buyers of Heartland will view the connecting communities as a huge negative, then again negatively affecting all of our residents. The exact thing we were trying to avoid with your initial proposal. I see this solution as an easy one. Put the entry to Wood Poppy just to the south of Violet Street and separate them with a berm and some nice landscaping. Please remember we have homes valued over $800K in Heartland. My second and final topic is regarding the 4 schools that are and will be used by surrounding communities in Heartland. Jenny Titus, who is a Superintendent Secretary of Valley View School District, gave me some numbers I'd like to share this evening. Desert Springs currently has 717 students with a building capacity of 625. East Canyon has 770 students with a building capacity of only 625. Ridgeview High School is less than 300 kids away from capacity, and Sage Valley Middle School is less than 400. I spoke with the office members at Ridgeview today, and it was clear that the teachers are being overworked as each class averages 32 kids. This is the same number I was given from the East Canyon Middle School. Modern policymakers have made it clear that 20 kids per classroom is the ideal number for the growth of our children. I challenge the members of our council to finally put our children first, before profits, especially considering that most of our schools are already dealing with capacity issues. Once finished, Sweetwater Glen and Salina Place will add an additional 1,000 kids to our school systems, both communities that have already been approved. 1,000 kids that our schools are vastly unprepared for. I'm a career real estate agent. Obviously, my business is directly tied to the growth of the Treasure Valley. With that being said, if it's not done correctly, it destroys the livelihood of the residents in our area. I challenge you to prepare for growth opposed to reacting to it. Once our schools and roads are ready, I welcome growth with open arms. Before I finish, I will leave you with a question. What is the city doing to prepare for the growth that is surely going to negatively impact our schools? You've already answered some of the questions on the roads. If you have a solution, will it be implemented before the new communities are built? Thank you.
Thank you.
Next is Ben Broker, TJ Williams, and Josh Nevins.
I'm Ben. I don't have anything to say. Everything's been said.
Thank you.
Like that. Against it.
Thank you. Got it.
I'd like to agree with all my Heartland residents. I'm completely against this.
Thank you.
I agree with everybody, and I'm very much against this.
Thank you.
Next is Brian Parker. On deck is Perry Griffiths and Linda Guidici. Thank you.
And I oppose this annexation. Roads,
Thank you.
the schools, everything everybody said is not ready for the growth that they're proposing here, so I do oppose it.
Okay. If you're going to say anything more than opposed, you have to come up and give your name and address just for the next. Thank you.
My name is Perry Griffiths. I live at 18237 North Orchid Way, and I agree with everybody what they had to say. The only thing I'd like to add is we already have a lot of semis coming up and down our road also. Since we moved in 2 years ago, they've put in an industrial park north of the beet factory, and now we're getting semis up and down north side all day long sometimes. And you can hear as one's fading out, another one's coming in. And it's causing a ton of noise. I've already talked to the city council about maybe putting in a brick wall or something to block some of the noise, and they said they won't do it unless it's a highway or a freeway. And so it's affecting my health. I'm not able to sleep a lot because even at 4 in the morning, 2 in the morning, we hear semis up and down the road. So I'm opposed to any more expansion in the area.
Thank you. Thank you.
I'm just here to listen.
Yeah.
I believe that's everybody.
Okay. Everybody signed up. Is there anybody in the audience this evening that hasn't spoken yet that would like to speak for, against, or undecided on this application? So all the written testimony is in our packets that we get?
Mr. Chair,
Yeah,
they're also on the back table.
okay, and on the back table? And anything that was emailed after the document was printed comes to us ahead of time as well?
Mr. Chair, can I make a comment, please?
Sure.
It's actually a lot better for you to write your comments than it is to stand up here. We don't remember exactly what you said, but if it's written down, I can remember things a lot easier. So in the future, written word is better than spoken word. Thank you.
Okay. Right. So anybody in the audience that'd like to speak for, against, undecided on this application, now's your chance. All right. Mr. Bailey, would you like to come back up and address the concerns and stand for questions?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. David Bailey, Bailey Engineering again. Appreciate all the comments. And I guess we do have to be concerned about schools. We do have to be concerned about traffic. And we do have to be concerned about, compatibility with the neighbors that are out here, already here. Heartland faced all these issues when that project came in a couple years ago, been some years ago. And the amount of time that's taken to build that has been probably 5 or 6 years. And that was vacant ground then, and they were complaining about it then. I started working in this area of town in 2002 with the Coulter Bay subdivision that we put together then, and we've heard these arguments from everybody along the way. And we are concerned about schools, but so is Valley View School District, and Valley View School District did not give you a letter saying that they can't handle this in the annexation, which is an important piece of what you do. But you don't decide for the schools. You don't need to decide for the schools whether they can handle this growth here. The schools take that from the comprehensive plan, which you all worked really hard at and put together just recently. And so one of the things the neighbors are saying here is that with the schools and the capacity and the density that we're proposing here is that the city and we haven't done our work. Well, you have. You wrote a comp plan. You looked at all these issues. You looked at the schools. You looked at the transportation. You looked at the access into these areas and the things that are going to need to happen. You decided everything southwest of here is going to be industrial. And so from the residential perspective in this area, this is the last piece in here. Everybody else got in here and they say, okay, well, let's close the door behind us. Well, your comp plan says that we absolutely can handle between 2.5 and 8 units per acre on this property here, going into here. So I think it's the absolutely appropriate thing to do to annex this into the city because it meets the specific requirements that the developer has presented to you. And we've brought you a plan that's consistent with that because why would we bring you anything other than what your comp plan says we should bring you? And that's exactly what we've done here. And we are addressing the schools and we're talking to them and we do have traffic on this and we are providing for the roundabout that's going to go into this thing. And we've also put in the beacon, for example, this developer's put in the beacon that's on north side. We can't move that access anywhere but Violet. You know, that's just an access restriction. We can't put 2 roads next to each other. We can't offset them by a certain amount. Violet's only half built, and so we'll build the southern half of that. And as you can see from our plan, that we provided significant buffering between the Heartland property and on the east and on the north of this development here. So we really think it's very consistent. You know, if the city thinks that there should be some other zone than RP, you know, we're here to ask for an annexation and a zone that we believe is consistent with your comp plan. If the city believes that should be different, then this is the opportunity for you to tell us that, I suppose. But to just deny it is to go against your comprehensive plan. I got a little bit left here, so I've got some numbers I want to throw out. So I did a circle with 1.5 miles around this development here of what's gone on. And then I've looked at about data since about 2014, and here's all the numbers. There are 22 total preliminary plats approved, with about 4,000 lots in those 22, and this is in the last 10 years that we've had in this area. CBH, because this was brought up by City Council, has had about half of these, has done about half of these in this area. 11 active preliminary plats are approved. So those are ones that are still out there that have lots left to build on those preliminary plats. 1,169 lots left to build in this whole area. That includes all the way up to Halton Heritage and Cherry Grove and down to the southeast of this project. CBH has about 600 of those lots that are approved but not built on yet. We have 60 final plats, and we break these up into final plats, for a total of 2,776 lots and that were submitted, and there's only 818 of those left that are under construction now to be put into the ground. CBH happens to have 5 of those for about 190 lots that they have left in inventory that are under construction right now in that area. There have been 44 plats, like subdivision plats, completed since 2013 for about 2,000 residential lots. CBH has recorded 19 of those, just under 1,000 of those lots that CBH has done with the other developers. Vacant lots, these are lots that are actually platted, but they don't have a building permit issued on them yet. There's only 243 up there. So I'm out of time, but I'll end there and see if you want to answer any questions about how many lots we sell per year, which is about 150 in this area for some consistent period of time.
Mr. Bailey, I have a question for you, please.
That was a lot of numbers. Everyone got those?
What did I say about writing things down? While you and I were sitting here listening to the people, they made a couple of comments that I think need to be addressed. CBH Homes, they said, was new in the valley. And I was here 20 years ago, and CBH was building homes then. How long has CBH been in the valley?
I believe since 1996, because I did his first subdivision in Boise back then.
CBH didn't come in because the valley started to grow. They've been here since the beginning.
Correct.
Okay. Also,
under a different name, yeah.
Yeah, but they've been here, so they're not like the inexperienced builders. No. Somebody mentioned about semis going up and down the streets at 2 or 4 o'clock in the morning. More than likely, those vehicles are going to the Amazon warehouse and not construction vehicles.
That's correct. They can't operate those construction vehicles at night. They have certain daytime hours that they're required to operate those, so those are not construction vehicles.
All right. Thank you. I wanted to make sure I was on the right track there.
Done? Yep. Any other questions? All right, I had a question on timing of build. So we're talking about annexation. You obviously have to go through the plating process and then building permits and whatnot. How long do you anticipate that will take for this project?
So if this were to be approved for annexation, we would be at a city council, or requested for, or recommended, we'd be at a city council meeting in about 1 to 2 months. And at that time, we probably would not submit a preliminary plat until next year, pending Mrs. Hartley's, which we acknowledge this probably may not be developed for some time, right? Depending on that restriction that we have on the property. But that's a contractual matter between the developer and Hartley on that end of it. So if that weren't there, it's possible we could submit a preliminary plat next year sometime. We could get construction drawings done in order to start construction on the site in '26. This is really a very small subdivision, 37 lots compared to the 1,000 that they said have already done in this area, which is a pretty accurate number. You know, is a pretty small subdivision, may be done in 1 or 2 phases on that end, and it'd probably be a 2 to 3 year build out on that. So we'd see all these houses would be there in, say, 2029, we'd be complete.
Complete. So first phase would be complete like 27, 28.
We'd probably only do it in 1 phase.
Okay.
Yeah, just
I thought you
because of
said
the
a
size
couple
of it, yeah.
phases. Okay. Have you had any discussions with Valley View School District? The developer?
Not on this specific project, no.
Okay.
But we do keep in contact with them and see how they're doing, and we check for their approval letter. So they, on the transmittal here, they often send a letter to the city when they can't provide services for some reason.
Okay. How about, there was a question about parking from one of the residents for this particular project?
So the streets within here are public streets. Every single unit within this has a two-car garage and a full driveway in front of it. And then there are public streets within there which allow parking on the streets as well. We aren't proposing any access from Violet, directly to any properties. So all of these have full driveways and two-car garages. They're all single-family homes with those accommodations. So there would be street parking, but it wouldn't be required to have, 4 cars per home.
Wait a second.
Yep.
Mr. Chair, you said these are all single-family homes proposed, but I thought I heard you say there were some duplexes in there too. I get the
I'm sorry,
townhome.
the four on the south-
Hold on a second. I get
Right,
the
in back.
townhomes, single-family homes with a 0 lot line, but the duplexes?
There are duplexes, there are 4 duplexes at the very south end of this, and that's for frontage purpose. Each one of those still has a
Still
two-car
will have-
garage.
okay. I just
for
wanted to make
each-
sure we
Each
clarified
side of it, and the parking in the driveway.
Great. Thank you.
Yes.
City, I think got my list. Anybody else have questions?
Someone had mentioned, well, no, we're not even in that stage. This is just annexation.
Thank
I
you.
thought someone might ask me about the sidewalk on north side, which of course we would build with the construction of this all the way up north
Sure,
side.
yeah. It's a condition of approval.
Mr. Chair, maybe a question for staff, just to help me square this. The development that was denied by City Council, the Valente, that was the southeast corner,
Correct.
and that was denied because of incompatibility, traffic, density.
Yes. Again, it was just the annexation and zoning with the development agreement. It was not a plat.
Right.
So timing really was more of the reason, just timing for bringing it into the city at this point.
Any other questions for the applicant? Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much.
Yep.
And
You can't ask a question. Yep, sorry.
And there was, Mr. Chair, there was a comment about road maintenance in Heartland. Heartland is it's not a private community, right?
Correct.
Those are not private streets.
They are publicly funded streets.
That's what I wanted to make sure, okay.
Make a motion, we close the public hearing.
Second.
A motion from Gardner to close the public hearing, second by Kehoe. All those in favor of closing public hearing, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? All right, public hearing's closed. Christie, when was the Heartland project annexed?
In
Year.
2016?
Much bigger project, obviously, but. What do y'all think? Don't all talk at once.
Thinking at once.
Well, I don't have a problem with the annexation, and obviously they're not married to their concept. We'll see that further down the road, so we can make changes to that point. They can make changes at that point.
About timing.
Would you attach the concept plan to the development agreement? I think Christie said that it would be a development agreement required with the annexation, so.
Correct, Commissioner Garner. The concept plan would be required to be attached. You can make some changes. If there's any changes to the layout of the roadways or any increase in density, we would have to come back through the process to change the development agreement. If there is a decrease in density or a city-required access change, then it would just, the plat would then just come to you with those changes.
Well, I don't know, it's always cart before the horse.
Yep.
Are we really getting the cart before the horse here? Because in order to get that roundabout in order to get the roads widened, frontages have to be given to the city, right? So the city's gonna have to purchase, or they're gonna have to be given as right-of-way from development. So what's gonna make those improvements happen faster?
Yeah, Daniel, how solid are those dates on construction of roundabouts and?
So the roundabout at Northside and Ustick is under design. We have determined that the costs likely will be higher on that due to needing to do bridges rather than culverts for the crossings that come across there on the Mason Creek and that. And so timing of those may shift a year or two just as we identify funding. But it is a joint project with the two highway districts and the city. We are committed to funding it. It's just a matter of where it slots in the funding years. I would anticipate that, like I say, it would only shift maybe 1 to 2 years. It would be my anticipation.
I got a question while we got you, Daniel. So right now we've got 2 subdivisions that have been approved on the northwest and southeast corners. So they've dedicated their right of way to it. So if we don't allow this, and the other one on the southwest corner has already been denied by city council, in order to move forward with that roundabout, you're going to have to go out and buy.
If these are not annexed and the right-of-way dedicated with those annexations as a condition of annexation, we will have to negotiate and purchase the right-of-way in order to do those, do that project, obviously increasing the cost some.
Possible delay of it even further. You got to go out and buy.
I don't know that it would delay it. It will have some cost implications. I don't think it would be of a magnitude that would change our funding, change the year, unlike changing from culverts to bridges, which is a fairly significant cost change. The amount of right-of-way purchase or not, while it has a financial impact, it would likely not affect what year we're able to fund it in.
I guess it kind of all depends on Mrs. Hartley and how long she's around too.
Yep.
So.
I like getting the dirt for free to the city instead of having to go out and pay for it. That helps, but.
Can't hear you.
Oh, sorry. I said I like the idea of the city getting the dirt for free for that roundabout instead of having to go out and buy it, which is what they'd have to do if this corner and the other corner don't get annexed and they decide to go ahead with development. They're going to have to buy the right away from private citizens. So it's kind of nice to get it for free, but.
Mr. Chairman, Mr. Chairman, my thoughts run to, like the applicant has pointed out, they have come to us with a compliant project. It's what they're coming in. It's complying with the comp plan, future land use. And the other thing that I thought was, they said that this is the second time they've presented the project. They've come back with some changes, which, in my estimation, it's further insulating that project from the Heartland subdivision. They're going to share the same access, but they put buffering, they put like product along the eastern boundary that borders them. And so I think that they have done a nice job of presenting a plan that is a compromise to what feedback they got last time they presented it.
I agree. That's kind of where I was going to go. I mean, we're here to look at the comp plan, how things fit, and how they're compatible with surrounding uses. I think the developer's done a good job in presenting something that checks those boxes, and
As much development as that they're approving out there at the city council level, it doesn't seem a stretch that this would be ready for development.
and it's going to provide a mix of housing types as well.
Correct.
Any motion?
Mr. Chair, I move to recommend approval of annexation and zoning to RP zoning district and potential development agreement for 90.1 acres for a future single-family residential subdivision at 0 Northside Boulevard for Katie Miller / Bailey Engineering representing Trilogy Development with all conditions listed in the staff report to adopt the proposed findings of approval as stated in the staff report.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion for a recommendation of approval and a second by Daffer and second from Miller. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed?
Aye.
Okay, we'll just call roll here. Madam Clerk, please.
Garner,
Aye.
Miller,
Aye.
Daffer,
Aye.
Turner,
Aye.
Kehoe,
Aye.
Morgan, Kirkman,
Nay.
Selman. Aye. Bonnacker.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Motion carries. That will go in front of city councils in a couple months when they're scheduled. Thank you for coming out this evening.
Thank you for your time.
Yep. All right.
Ow. Oh, yes, he did. How many years ago was it?
All right.
I don't know that it matters. Am I allowed to say anything now?
No.
We're still
You can
going.
chat with staff after the meeting or,
Address the Amazon comment zones.
hey, yeah. No worries. Thanks.
It doesn't.
Hey.
Yeah.
We got another hearing.
We got another
unless
hearing we
there's
got to
some
get to.
Boulders and rocks and stuff, then
We
that's
got
not
to
what's
go.
going down the road.
All right. Second item on the agenda this evening is a subdivision short plat approval for 16-84 Commerce Center subdivision in the GB1 zoning district of 14.27 acres, addressed as 15918 Star Road and 0 Franklin Road for Barron Properties, Shannon Eli representing BPS Nampa MC LLC, commercial mixed-use development with approximately 5 buildings. Is the applicant here this evening? Come on up, state your name and address for the record, and tell us what you're planning to do.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Commission. My name is Kendall Hansey with Horrocks Engineers at, let's see, well, my home address is 346 West Striped Owl Street, Cuna. Again, my name is Kendall Hansey with Horrocks Engineers. I'm the Planning and Landscape Architecture Supervisor for the project, here representing Barron Properties, and joined with me, I've got staff from Barron Properties. I have Greg Hector, Senior Vice President of Development and Construction, here to help answer questions as well. I'd like to begin by thanking all the city staff for the support and collaboration in going through the through the annexation and the rezoning process. We've had we've been able to go through and get feedback and help to address any items and concerns as we've moved through that process, and so we're helpful and optimistic that we can continue with that momentum as we move forward through the short plat process. Just a little bit of history on the project. In April of 2023, the site was annexed and zoned as GB1 with the approved with a development agreement featuring a site plan, elevation, and condition of approval. And then in July of 2023, the staff approved a boundary adjustment to split off a 3.21 acre portion of the original parcel. Currently, we are here asking for your approval For the short plat, it's 4 lots, approximately 3.3 acres average, for a total of 13.2 acres. The project complies with all applicable zoning and plating regulations, and we concur with all staff and jurisdictional recommendations. With the annexation completed and the proper zoning applied to the site as recommended by P&Z and City Council, we request approval for the replat, or excuse me, for the short plat, and we're open for any questions.
Any questions for the applicant? All right, we'll hear from staff, and
thank you.
We'll call you back up. Parker.
Thank you, Chairman and Commissioners. The action requested is the short plat approval for the 1684 Commerce Center subdivision. Went through the history already. North, this is surrounded by GB1 zoning. To the north is Radix, Tin Roof Tacos. To the south is Agland, east is Agland. To the west is Amazon. Annexed in 2023 with a development agreement that had site plan elevations and conditions. And then staff approved the property boundary adjustment in July, splitting off the front portion. So this is the elevation that's part of the development agreement. The preliminary plat showing the location of those buildings. The construction drawing showing the accesses off of Star Road, and then an access from Franklin Road as well. Is an aerial view. Some of the bulk requirements as far as setbacks, we can get into this, but these will be part of the building permit review. One thing to point out, GB zoning does require berming along the frontages, so that will be a requirement as well for the small frontage that they do have off of Franklin, and then the frontage from Star Road as well. Correspondence, compliance with Title IV, getting all the appropriate building permits. Engineering comments were part of the packet. Some comments on utility right-of-way improvements, capital improvement projects in the vicinity, and available utilities. Also included some traffic impact study comments. The traffic impact study was part of the annexation, and some improvements will be made with this development. This is 2.6 miles from Fire Station 5 at the 6-minute response time. Rachel Drain goes through the property, 70-foot total right-of-way for easement for that drain. And then Compass has comments regarding VRT bus routes as well. Traffic study, the project would be required to make improvements at Robinson Road and Flamingo, as well as the site access from Star Road. And then capital improvement project list, Franklin Road, widening State Highway 16 being constructed, and then Franklin and McDermott being signalized. So here's the plat, final plat, and this is 13.19 acres. The final plat includes 4 buildable lots, not including part of the development. There's a building lot in the frontage that was split off, and then the lot in the northeast corner that will not have a building on it. So we're just platting the 4 buildable lots interior to the project. There's not any lot size requirement or lot width or depth requirements. Landscaping will be revealed as part of the building permits for each. No open space requirement, and parking will be reviewed at the building permit as well. Conditions of approval are in the staff report. A motion for you, and I'll stand for any questions.
Any questions for Parker? So berms near the entrances. Right, because the property
Yeah, so,
line does not touch.
Chairman, the building one that's on Star Road, the landscaping will be installed as part of that,
Okay,
that
gotcha.
building, and that will have berming along Star Road.
All right, got it. Thanks. Any other questions, other than my not intelligent one? All right, we'll go ahead and move on to public testimony for this item. Is there anybody signed up this evening to speak on this
No,
application?
Mr. Chair.
No? Is there anybody in the audience that would like to speak for, against, or undecided on this? Come on up, state your name and address for the record, and tell us if you're for, against, or undecided, and what your thoughts are.
Scott
If you have any
Nunes with Timco Inc., 36, excuse me, 3609 South Julie Night, Nampa. We own the property that is to the east and to the south of this. Not opposed to it at all. Don't have a problem with the project. I have a concern about the access on Franklin Road, or sorry, on Star Road. We also were annexed in with GB1 zoning, and we also have plans for access off of Star and Franklin. And my concern with their access on Star is they have it pushed all the way to the south up against our property line. And we don't have very much width right there. And I just would respectfully request that you consider adjusting that north so that it doesn't preclude us from having access onto Star also because of distances. And that would be my only concern.
Okay. You said your property's to the south and the east of the site?
Correct.
Okay.
Could it be possible to do a cross-access agreement?
We're open to anything that still allows us access.
Okay, thank you.
All right, thanks. Anybody else here that would like to speak for, against, or undecided on this application? All right. The applicant come back up, and any closing thoughts or?
Hi, Kendall Hansey with
Comments on the
Horrocks Engineers again. In way of reply, the aerial images that were shown, they're a little bit out of date. Currently, we're adjacent to Amazon and the cheese factory, so just to give a little bit of context, the reason that the access point was shown where it is it aligns. We're asked to align it with the access point for Amazon, so it's just kind of aligned parallel to that. So that was the reason for that particular access point. So,
okay.
Thank you.
All right.
You wouldn't be opposed to an agreement with them for access because by the time you start going south, then you start coming off that overpass, and so that could become an issue for them having access. So,
Is there a secondary access south?
So we have two access points coming off of Star Road, and then a potential, or excuse me, a future expansion off of Franklin Road as well. So
Right.
3 points of access.
So I think what his concern is that secondary access down on the southern portion of the property, would it be possible, or would you be amiable to shifting that and doing a cross-access agreement so that you can both use that same access? Or
I can defer to to Greg to answer that question.
But I would also invite Daniel, if you want to weigh in on that, but
I would certainly say that that would be the preferable solution for the city, just due to access spacing and everything along there. That would be a good solution that would preserve access to both sites.
Even though it wouldn't be aligned with Amazon's access?
So
I don't think there's another secondary access, so.
Amazon's access is aligned with their north access. So the southern access, there's nothing across the street that it needs to line up with. And so that could be shifted, however many feet south to put it on the property line and make it a joint access. That wouldn't cause an access management issue.
Bless you. Okay. Any comments for you?
Simple answer, we'd be open to coordination.
Okay.
That access was placed there as a requirement from NAMPA to align it.
Yeah, we're open to being amenable of that, of course. Yes.
Okay, great.
Thank you.
You. All right, I'd entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
So moved.
Second.
Been moved by Kehoe, seconded by Daffer. I'm being really nice to you tonight.
Thank you.
To close the public hearing, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? All right, public hearing's closed.
So if we wanted to approve this, which I don't see any problem with it, do we need to add a condition that they will work with the property owner to the south on the joint access?
I would recommend that.
Okay.
Chair, can I just make a comment? I'm not opposed to this project, and goodness, we need projects like this. Here's my only concern is gateway business, and it seems like, and this is more just of an aesthetic comment, but it seems like Nampa, all the gateways into Nampa are becoming industrial gateways. And I think these are handsome buildings. I'm not opposed, again, to what's going in here, the proposed what's going here. I guess I want this on the record. Because I really don't want the gateways in Nampa to be industrial. And then everybody who's coming through or driving in see these massive industrial concrete monolith buildings.
They're beautiful.
I think you're a little biased.
You're in the wrong business, dude.
Of course I'm biased.
And I'm not saying they're not beautiful. I said they're handsome buildings. Yes, they're handsome buildings. Anyways, that's just my comment. I think, I just want to make sure that we're not losing sight of these gateway business access to Nampa and becoming just monolithic concrete buildings.
Would you be okay with car dealerships?
Or car dealerships, but there's nothing we can do about that now.
Some of those.
Yeah. Anyways, that's just my comment. Again, it's just more an aesthetic comment. I think that sometimes we lose sight because we need these properties. We need these developments in Nampa, these industrial and so on. But that's all. Not opposed.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair, if there's no more discussion, I'll go ahead and move that we approve the subdivision short plat approval for 81684 Commerce Center subdivision in the GB1 zoning district of 14.27 acres addressed as 15918 Star Road and East Franklin Road for Barron Properties, Shannon Eli, representing BPS Nampa, with the recommended conditions of approval and adopt the potential findings, but add the secondary condition of approval that the applicant work with the southern property owner to develop a cross-access agreement for the southern entrance off of Star Road.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion by Gardner and a second by Daffer to approve with the additional condition. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, that motion carries. Short plat is approved. Thanks for coming out this evening. Item number 3 is a conditional use permit for a home occupation online firearm sales office in an RS7 zoning district at 18232 North Camas Creek Avenue for Matthew Randazzo.
Yes, sir.
Is the applicant here? Oh, yeah, you're online. That's right.
Yes. I apologize for not being there. My wife's recovering from surgery.
That's okay. Just state your name and address for the record, please, and you got 7 minutes if you need it to tell us what you are thinking about doing.
Okay, it's Matthew Randazzo.
We have video. Sorry, you're
18232 North Camas Creek Avenue, Nampa, Idaho 83687. Basically, I'm a gunsmith, rifle builder. 99% of my sales are online, drop shipped. I don't have customers coming to my house. It wouldn't be a nuisance to the neighbors or anything like that.
okay. So I had a little bit of trouble hearing. Yeah,
Mr. Chairman, I would ask the applicant, can you maybe walk us through security, firearms that you have on site or ammunition? Where do you keep them? Is there a safe? Stuff like that. These are things that commonly come up when we have these online firearm sales, and so maybe some of the more detailed stuff you can give us?
Yeah, absolutely. No, I have multiple safes. I usually don't keep firearms on site. Everything is drop shipped. I don't do ammunition. I don't keep powder. There's nothing dangerous. Most of it is all drop shipped.
Okay.
All right. So no employees, no pickups, customers won't be coming to your house to pick up firearms, so.
No, sir. I mean, maybe 5 a month if there's a local customer, but I've been doing this for 21 years, and most of my sales are throughout the country, and very little local sales.
Okay. Where are you doing it from now?
The home.
Okay.
Made him implicate himself.
No. Well, just wondering.
ATF will be there in the morning.
No, I've been doing it for a long time, and yeah, no, a lot of my distributors, they drop ship, so I get orders in. It just goes directly from the distributor to the customer's home.
Okay. Any other questions? All right. We will hear from the staff and testimony, and then we'll call you back up if we have questions.
Okay.
All right. Not Parker. Yeah, Parker. You're up again.
Yeah, thank you, Chairman. We've been down this road a few times, so I'll make this as brief as possible. CUP for home occupation firearm sales. Staff finds that it meets the requirements, criteria for a CUP. The area, this is a medium density zoned RS7. It's surrounded by single-family homes to the north, south, and west, and county residents to the east. Looking back, this is at the crossroads, Franklin and Ustick, just further north from that intersection. Home occupations, we regulate these via home occupation permit. They can have a small sign nameplate on the location. Can't be more than 25% of the home, no outdoor display, no commercial vehicles, can't have employees, can't generate traffic beyond that of a typical residence, and has to maintain their residential appearance. The site plan is part of the staff report submitted. You can see the home occupation will largely take place in the garage. The criteria for the conditional use permit listed in the staff report. We did get one public comment after the staff report that should have been sent on to you and been made available. Just questions regarding some of the operations of the business, how they're going to be stored, the caliber of weapons, how it's going to be delivered, security measures, so forth. Staff analysis, it's in a largely single-family area. The reuse will primarily be online with some visitors. And city code does have some regulations on visitors, and can't be more than one at a time. Regarding the public interest, the home will maintain its residential appearance. And regarding the parking, city code does require them to maintain 2 off-street parking spaces, one of which needs to be covered. So in the garage, there needs to be space for a parking spot, a covered parking spot. Conditions of approval, those lay out some of those requirements, as well as any that you wish to add. Again, staff finds that this meets the criteria, and potential motions are for you. Now it's time for any questions.
Any questions for Parker?
Yeah, please. Could you go back to the rendering that showed the area, that one there? We've done a lot of these in the past, and they take up about as much space normally as maybe a desktop. This guy has got like, I don't know how many bays garage that is, but it's at least 3. It seems like it's a lot more than what's normal. Is this my observation correct, or
Chairman and Commissioner, you can ask the applicant what they're intended to use the space for. I would say that, it's probably more than typical, but can't exceed more than 25%, and they have to have a spot for parking.
Yes, sir. It's a 4-car garage. It has a deep RV space. I utilize a lot of desks for gunsmithing work, for doing a lot of work. There is a part for my my personal vehicles to park. That was part of the allure to buying this place, was I'd have a place to work and park my vehicles in.
So which of those X's would go away then if you're going to be parking your vehicle there?
I would say the front 2.
I didn't understand what you said.
Front 2.
Front 2, okay.
Or front 4?
The front 2 on the left.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. That looks more reasonable to me. Appreciate that.
Yeah.
Mr. Chair, quick question. Can you go to that slide with the parking, covered parking and more of a clarification. So if this was a home that didn't have a garage, would they be required to put in covered parking? Or is that just, we'll deal with it when we cross that bridge when we get there?
Chairman, Commissioner, it's a tough question if it's regarding a existing structure, right, that doesn't have parking. If it's just a home occupation going in, we may not be able to require them to put a carport or garage on. But if they were adding on to the house, then certainly we could probably require that as part of the building permit.
Is that something that the director could make an exception for if it was an existing home, or am I asking questions that can't be answered at this point?
It's probably more of a legal question.
Okay,
than.
well, we'll leave it at that, because it's not particular to this applicant, but it did, it did bring up that question with me with the requirement.
Any other questions? Parker? Okay. Seeing none, we'll move on to public testimony. Is there anybody in the audience, so sign-up sheet, do we have anybody on the sign-up sheet?
Yes, Mr. Chair, Paul Langston.
Okay. Would you like to come up and give some testimony?
Yep.
You got to come up and state your name and address, sorry.
Speak in the mic and get on the record.
Yeah.
Paul Langton at 8080 East Sunray Drive. I live right across the street from him. But we had several questions that addressed increase of traffic, whether this was going to be a storage facility. That has been answered. I'm comfortable with all of our concerns being addressed. So I'm in favor of it.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Anybody else on the sign-up sheet?
No, Mr. Chair.
All right. Would anybody else like to speak for, against, or undecided on this application? All right. Seeing none.
I'll make a motion, we close public hearing.
Well, I got to ask the applicant if he has anything else to say.
Okay.
But I'll give you the motion. I won't give it to Steve when we get there.
Steve will get the second.
No, I would just like, I would just like to say that anybody in my neighborhood that has any concerns, I did this in we just moved here a couple months ago. My previous neighborhood, I don't have a lot of traffic. I try to make sure that doesn't happen. I don't want to be a nuisance. There's no loud sounds. There's no machinery. I don't manufacture. It's mainly online sales. So my neighbors' concerns of traffic, I completely understand and am aware of, and I promise it won't be a problem.
Okay, great. Thank you. All right. Entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
I make a motion, we close public hearing.
All right, Commissioner Selman.
I don't want to disappoint you guys, so I'll make the second on that.
All right. Second to Kehoe to close public hearing. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. We're closed. So he didn't quite implicate himself because he just moved here. So he didn't tell us he was from California, but he did in his letter. So don't hold that against him.
Congratulations for getting out.
Yep.
Northern California.
No, good.
Okay.
Yeah, that's better.
Yeah, I live next to Merle Haggard.
Cool.
Sweet. For real?
Mr. Chair, if there's no discussion or
Go for it.
I'll make a motion to approve the conditional use permit for home occupation online firearm sales office in RS7 zoning district at 18232 North Camas Creek Avenue for Matthew Randazzo with recommended conditions and proposed findings.
I'll second that one also.
All right, we got a motion by Kirkman and a second by Kehoe to approve the conditional use permit. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? All right, that motion carries. Mr. I can't pronounce your name, sorry, what is it?
Randazzo.
Randazzo. The CUP will become effective 15 calendar days from the date of this hearing unless an appeal has been filed with Planning and Zoning Department with the appropriate fee. So no action should be taken on your CUP until the appeal period has concluded and you have confirmed with Planning and Zoning there have been no appeals. So you're good after 15 days.
Thank you so much for your time.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, Mr.
Have a good day.
Hope your wife heals up soon.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate that very much.
All right, next item on the agenda. Where am I? Okay, is a zoning map amendment from ILRS, that's a good one, to RS 8.5 zoning district at 0 First Street North, a .22 acre parcel located in northeast, or I don't need to say that. A .2 acre parcel for Ivan Sandoval with the original concept of a rezone from ILRS designation to RS 8.5 zoning to allow for construction of a new single-family detached dwelling unit. And I understand that Christie will be providing the applicant's plan and staff report as well.
That is
So,
correct.
Christie, it's all you.
Okay, thank you.
You have 7 minutes.
Thank you, Chairman and Commissioners. Christy Watkins, Principal Planner for the City of Nampa. The request before you this evening is as stated. It is an effort to, as the applicant has requested, to eliminate the dual zone of ILRS, rezone it to RS 8.5, and to construct a single-family home. So the property has already been granted a property boundary adjustment or a single split. The RS 8.5 zoning district is a permitted zone in the medium-density residential land use designation. The properties to the north are zoned RML. The property to the south is IH. The east and west are both ILRS, and we have just recently adopted a policy about this particular area where we would like to try to start cleaning up the zoning in this area so that we don't have this somewhat ambiguous ILRS zone where you're just kind of requesting whatever within those two guidelines. So if we can try to get these properties zoned to one single zone, then we know how to regulate whatever's happening on them. The area has developed generally as residential with the railroad tracks to the south and those are zoned heavy industrial. The existing use will not be changing on the property, but will allow for an additional single-family home to be constructed on the lot that has been created to the south of 447 First Street North. Again, the comprehensive plan talks about compatibility, housing goals, and how to improve housing affordability by creating certain infill situations. This project will be regulated with a building permit through Chapter 8, the RS zoning district, and a single-family home is an allowed use in that zone. So engineering has commented that they will need to provide some access through the front of the property. So there will need to be an easement of some kind that will need to be negotiated there, and that this property is located in the 500-year floodplain of Indian Creek with no additional requirements at this time. The city does have sewer and water systems that are adequate to serve this property. So those were the engineering comments. The Nampa district does not oppose this request, but they do have some requirements for access roads and turnarounds when a property is more than 150 feet away from the main right-of-way, so those will need to be addressed with the building permit as well. The staff findings for zoning, there are 3. One is that it matches the comprehensive plan, which this does. 1, that the uses or set of uses would be reasonably compatible. Single-family home is compatible with the uses that are there and is in the interest of the public and reasonably necessary. There are existing public utilities and services, and this was a fairly large lot to begin with. For the conditions of approval are in your staff report, one of them being the 14-foot wide access easement along the northwest side of the property boundary of 447 First Street North. There is an instrument that was recorded on February 5th of 2024 that was an easement agreement. This is the potential motion, and I will stand for any questions.
Any questions for Christie?
Yeah, just a quick question, Mr. Chair. The applicant, some communication barriers, language barriers?
That's correct.
And he is completely understood of what the conditions are and that's all been, I just want to make sure.
You understand the conditions of the staff report? Yes.
Thank you.
Christie, what did you say about turnaround on the property when it's too far?
150 feet from the roadway would need to provide a hammerhead or some kind of a turnaround at the end for the fire department.
And is that just to the structure itself, the 150 feet?
It'll depend, of course, on how big the structure ultimately is, but they'll have to be able to reach all sides of the structure.
Okay, any other questions? All right. Go ahead and move on to public testimony. That was the staff report too, right? Okay, great.
That's pretty cool.
Moving on to public testimony, is there anybody on the sign-up sheet for this application?
Yes, Mr. Chair, we have Brad Hammer.
Okay, Brad, if you'd come up and state your name and address for the record and tell us what's on your mind.
Hi, my name's Brad Hammer. I'm here with my wife, Michelle. We're at 447 First Street North. We own the house that the property is in front of. Our concern is if you see where the purple line is, that's barely a 14-foot close to our house to the fence. And with the access going back behind, you can see on the right side where 455 is, that there's a longer, wider road that, if taken away from the, sorry, I get nervous. And there's a chain link fence that goes all the way down the side of our property. That it would be easier for access for him, for his work vehicles, for his home vehicles, building, fire department, emergency access, stuff like that to go on that side. My wife is disabled, so I have to park next to the house to be able to get her in when she's not in her scooter. And just having to park on the road is a lot harder for us to do it. Plus, on the side of the house where the gray is, there's a drop-off where my daughter's bedroom is. My fear is fire trucks, any kind of commercial trucks, building, anything like that, if not guided incorrectly, could go into that hole, that access, and possibly hit my house and damage it. Plus, just past where the driveway is, there's the access for the water main that sticks out about 2-3 feet. So he would have to go through more of my yard than just the 14-foot easement to get back to his property. So, is there anything else you can think of, Michelle, that?
No, other than, like I said, it's only 13.9, the actual eaves of the house, so anything big that goes through there, a fire truck's gonna hit the house.
Yeah, they would have hard access to get through to the back property.
Right.
That's their driveway.
Okay.
We wanna build a covered driveway.
Yep, hold on. You can talk too, but you got to come up and do the whole same thing. Okay, yep, we'll ask about that and get your question answered.
All right, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else on the sign-up sheet?
I'll wait till you call for unsigned up.
Come on up, unless there's anyone else on the sign-up sheet.
I kind of went out and took the measurements for him. Leland Heimbach, 16591 Wood Duck Street, Nampa, Idaho. So when they moved to there, they didn't tell them there might be an easement. And that access, their ADA access to the house is that back patio. The front door, you can't get the chair in. So she's got to have access to that back. And by killing their entire driveway, which is that 14 feet, or 13.9, if you measure from the top of the eave to the fence, they lose that access to the back. So, and I know with her MS, she can't hardly make it up in there anyway, so. The other thing I did, like he was talking about, it's the actual where you stick your valve, open, close the valve, is dead in the middle of that easement. And those typically stick out about ground about that far, got a cap on them. If they drive over that cap, they're gonna bust that valve. That's your pressurized irrigation valve. So just wanted to point those out. There's also a great big tree in the way that's gonna have to be removed if they want access. Once they put a fence up in their yard for the dogs, it's gonna be really narrow there. That tree's gonna have to go. So it's just kind of a mess back there.
Yep, okay. Thank you.
And your covered building.
All right, is there anybody else on the sign-up sheet or
Mr. Chair.
in the audience that would like to speak for, against, or undecided on this application? All right, Christie.
Thank you.
Process.
Mr. Chairman and Commissioners. I am looking at the easement agreement currently, and it shows a 14-foot access agreement was granted in February of this year by a Ryan Murr, who is a member of RML Investments. I can only assume that maybe that was a previous owner that was granted to Ivan Sandoval, who is the applicant. A standard road lane is 12 feet, and we managed to pass each other pretty effectively going back and forth on a roadway within that 12 feet. So 14 feet should be plenty for a vehicle to be able to pass through there. There also are traffic-rated valve boxes that can be placed over water valves to protect them. So that can be done. The entire area that is not currently paved, if it isn't already paved out to First Street, anything going back to the new residence will need to be paved. So there will actually be improvements made to that easement area going through that area. So I'm not sure what else we can do to make it better.
Okay.
There is a legal
Yeah, I can.
easement for them to use that driveway.
Yep, this is the easement agreement that was signed.
Do you have any
February.
idea how much room is behind the people that live in front? How much room is behind their home? Do they have the ability to go behind and turn in to get to that back patio?
Yeah, I believe if they wanted to create a parking pad back there, there would be plenty of room.
But it probably would take, well, not knowing what the house looks like back there to get For in and out. Okay. Interesting. Any questions for Christie? Other than that? Nope. All right. I would entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Miller, second by Daffer. You're done. To close the public hearing, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? All right, public hearing's closed.
Christie, I should have asked you this question a few minutes ago, but I didn't think of it until right now. Are there any ADA considerations that we have to worry about?
Commissioner Kehoe, all we need to make sure is that they have the ability to install a ramp if they need a ramp. For instance, I'm just going to give you a for instance. The front setback for most properties is 20 feet. That's our code requirement. If someone wanted to access the front of their property with a handicapped ramp, we would allow them to construct and install it within that 20-foot setback.
Okay.
Those are the kinds of ADA concessions that we make regularly.
Just want to make sure they weren't getting stuck somehow.
Yeah, they could put it in the front yard if they wanted to.
Okay, thanks. Close the public hearing, but we're still waiting on a motion for the,
Correct, yeah.
well, for crying out loud.
Everyone's thinking.
Mr. Chair?
I think it's pretty
Yeah,
straightforward.
nobody's saying anything, so I guess you have no comments. So I move to recommend approval of the zoning map amendment from IL-RS to RS 8.5, zoning district at 0 First Street North for Ivan Sandoval, and to adopt the proposed findings with no extra add-ons.
All right, a motion by Kehoe, second by Daffer to recommend approval of the zoning map amendment from ILRS to RS.8.5 with all conditions and proposed findings. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed?
Aye.
All right, we have one against. Do we need to call roll?
It was me.
Okay. 7-1, motion carries to recommend approval. That will go to city council, correct? Yeah, because it's a zoning map amendment. So that'll be heard in when it's scheduled. All right, thank you for coming out this evening. All right, moving on, the last item on the agenda this evening is a zoning code amendment of Title 10, Chapter 23, Section 8, adding items L and M for prohibited signs related to advertising illegal activity in the sales of controlled substances for the city of Nampa. Christie.
Yes. Thank you, Chairman and Commissioners. Christy Watkins, Principal Planner for the City of Nampa. As stated, we have had a suggestion to add these items to our prohibited signs list. Any sign advertising illegal activity, which would then be a misdemeanor as per our code compliance code, and any sign advertising an establishment that sells a controlled substance or drug paraphernalia, and that is spelled wrong, sorry, as such terms are defined in Idaho Code Section 372701. So we're just trying to put these two items in to match the Idaho State Code section, both being misdemeanors. We find that this follows the process for amending code, and these are your potential motions.
Good. Any questions for Christie? All right. Seeing none, and we did the staff report again in conjunction with the
Very
presentation.
efficient, very efficient.
We'll go ahead and open public testimony for this item. Do we have anybody signed up to speak?
No,
Or
Mr. Chair.
anybody want to speak on this item? All right. I think we can close the public hearing if we
Again.
make a motion. All right, we get a motion from Gardner to close the public hearing in a second. Second. Miller.
Miller.
Yep.
On the ball down there, guys. Keep it up.
We have a motion and a second to close the public hearing for this item. All those in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right. Public hearing's closed. Any discussion? I think it's a great idea.
Yeah, I mean, it seems pretty obvious.
Logical.
It's the first one.
Go with it, Jeff.
I move to approve I move to approve
What kind of drugs are you on?
zoning code amendment of Title 10, Chapter 23, Section 8, adding items L and M for prohibited signs relating to advertising illegal activity and the sales of controlled substances for the city of Nampa.
Second.
We have a motion by Kirkman and a second by Miller to approve the zoning code amendments. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Peggy, you're up.
Being none, that goes, and I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
I make a motion, we adjourn.
Peggy gets the motion,
Second.
and Gardner gets the second to adjourn. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Why do we have to vote to adjourn? Just Robert's rules?
Maybe someone wants to stay here longer.
Yeah?
It is.
I can filibuster all night long.
And I'll see you in the parking lot after we do.